Today's the day I'm going to go commit a crime. Why not? I'm going to go do a crime that is victimless, involves money, and I don't think I'm going to get caught. Or if I do get caught, nobody's going to care. I don't know. Because that seems to be the fashion. Here we are in the middle of a national disaster, and our federal government is handing out money measured in billions. And yet we haven't solved some of the fundamental problems with managing that money. I'm looking at a Office of Inspector General report regarding FEMA from Department of Homeland Security. This thing is dated February 27th, 2020. OIG report 2017. Here it is. So this report came out, a few days before we really started measuring COVID deaths and COVID illnesses. But, COVID was in the news at this moment. This report, entitled, FEMA should recover $5.57 million in grant funds awarded to Fraser Meadows, Inc., Boulder, Colorado. So what do I know about Fraser Meadows Manor, Inc.? It's a care home. It's in Boulder, Colorado. It is a nonprofit. How do I know it's a nonprofit? Because I received FEMA money. So the day before a flood in 2017 in Larimer County, Colorado, the administrator of this care home managed a nonprofit. Billed people for their care, raised money somehow, did things. Then the flooding came, mud, landslide, earth all over the place. And then this organization was subsequently awarded FEMA funds to clean up and repair from that disaster, from that nationally declared disaster, from that presidentially declared disaster. So now this administrator, he or she, is the boss of a pile of money, $10 million, $10.6 million of federal funds. So this person is now the steward of federal tax dollars. And in that moment, became responsible for following federal law. Somehow we're differentiating between regulations and law, but regulations are laws. If you don't follow them, you broke the law. There are consequences for that. And these regulations are an agreed upon standard for how to behave when managing federal dollars. We've decided corporately as a nation that shenanigans are bad, fraud, waste, and abuse is bad, cronyism is bad, taking federal dollars and putting it in your right pocket, then putting it in your left pocket and calling it paid is bad. Taking money from the federal government to do certain things and then making sure that that money goes to friends, family, and those you're very familiar with is bad. You're not supposed to profit from your public service. Your service is for the public good, pro bono publico. You are working on the commonwealth. It's a very old standard for behavior. And when behaving that way for the public good, you need to be intentionally free of conflicts of interests. Those are the basic rules that we've all agreed to. And the other thing I think that we've agreed to, I know that we've agreed to, is that when spending public dollars, we need to make sure that those dollars benefit all of us somehow, or in the absence of true benefit, that we're not using it to make things worse. So we can't just take public dollars, tax dollars, my tax dollars, your tax dollars, and use them to filthy upstreams, spew stuff into the sky, do things that make water worse, air worse, and people worse off. We take the tax dollars and we try to make things better or set them back at least to the way they were. That would be the lovely goal. So here we are. February 27, 2020, Inspector General looks back, does 3 years worth of research on these folks, sort of finishes their field work in 2016, according to this report. They feed it over to FEMA, region 7 or 8, whatever. And, this is what they found. OIG found Fraser Meadows did not comply with federal procurement regulations and FEMA guidelines when awarding $10.8 million for 10 contracts. $8.1 million for non-exigent work, and $1.98 for exigent work. So some portion of the work was during an emergency period, typically defined as, 72 hours. They did not fulfill the provisions of CFR, Code for Federal Regulations. They did not do open and free competition. They did not use small businesses and minority-owned firms. They did not take advantage of women-owned businesses. They did not perform any costing or pricing analysis. They didn't do any contract administration or contract oversight. They don't have any records of the quality of the work that was done, the quality of the materials that were done, the compression strength of the contract, whatever that was. They don't have it. They didn't evaluate the contractor's performance. They didn't include the provisions in the contract. So, the basic provisions that say, thou shall keep the water clean. Thou shall keep the air clean. Thou shall have a blue toity near the construction site so you're not leaving your business all over the place. And the other thing that we ask people who are acting in the public good to do is make sure that their vendors, the people they're working with, have not previously been debarred or suspended or otherwise excluded. So in other words, please don't take my tax dollars and give it to a guy or a team or whatever who we already know is a crook. No crooks. Crook-free zone. Shenanigan-free zone. So free and open competition is a tenet that we sort of hold. It's like, it's there in the middle of the framing of this country, especially in the recent century, that shenanigans, cronyism, nepotism, nobility, whatever, all of that kind of stuff we kind of left at the shores of other countries when we came here. We were kind of tired of, kings and dukes and lords tearing down streets and tearing up people and building what they wanted and doing anything they want and just keeping everything to themselves. The idea is that we all pay taxes, we all participate, and therefore we all get to participate. And that if we have a construction firm or, an earth-moving firm, we get to compete when there's federal dollars in play. Businesses can do business things. They have to operate truly within the law. But there's really nothing that prevents businesses from engaging in cronyism, nepotism, and other sorts of isms. They get to do what they get to do. But when it's dealing with the federal dollar, the rules are different. So the administrator, the team here at Fraser Meadows, the care home, said, we gave the contract to the people we were familiar with, who were familiar with the facility, who were available and ready to go. So they gave it to the people they're familiar with. That is exactly not what the rule says. The rule says that you have to do a fair and open competition. How do you do that? Well, you write down on a piece of paper what it is that you want. Specifications for the job. You publish that. You notice it. You put it up at here and there, and then you ask people to bid on it. And you make sure that some of the people that bid on it have some designations: minority-owned, disadvantaged, veteran-owned, all of that kind of stuff. Yay, come on in, bid, because this is here. These are public dollars. You get a fair shake this time. They all sit down, they do their pricing, they do their thing. The bids, sealed until a public meeting, are then opened in a public meeting. There is a scoring criteria that was known ahead of time, put up on a board or whatever, and they score it. And they're like, oh, okay, well, this one's price is higher, but this one, the quality, whatever. Whatever the criteria are, the criteria are. They need to be fair. They can't deliberately favor those familiar cronyism kind of things. They need to be fair. And once you do your evaluation, You then should go check. Hey, have these guys been debarred? Have they been suspended from doing federal contracts in the past or state contracts? Are these guys just known for pulling shenanigans, malarkey, all the time? So we can't give that to them. When you've done your evaluation and you've done your due diligence to make sure that these folks can execute, and they have executed fairly in the past, or at least they haven't executed poorly, then you give them a contract. And that contract, when you're done, has all of those magical clauses that the United States federal government wants in there. Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, Davis-Bacon Act, EO 1110, whatever they are, Don't pee in the river. Don't blow smoke up into the sky. Be good stewards with our money. Don't. Then you go do your thing. And while you're doing your thing, we just want to make sure that the rebar that you use, that the concrete that you use, meets the specifications. We want to make sure that the debris you take out of here goes to the right place. That you're not just like taking it to some already super fun site. Do the right thing. Pretty simple. And yet, they didn't. So, OIG says, hey, FEMA, please disallow $5.5 million and pull that back. FEMA wrote OIG a note in 2019 after reading this report, and FEMA said, boy, oh boy, you people are slow. You finished your field work in December 2016. I'm writing you this note in 2019. So, you're dealing with something that's 7 years old. The crime's already been committed. The money's already been spent. What we're trying to say is, let's stop doing it that way. Wouldn't that be lovely? But we haven't. Here we are in tiny town, Vermont, where I live, just off the Massachusetts border. We're doing the same kind of shenanigans that they do. We're doing these shenanigans today, and we did it a decade ago. And I live in a town where people, probably like Boulder, where people are honest. They have integrity. They want to do the right thing. They don't wake up on a random Saturday or Wednesday and say, today's the day I'm going to go commit a crime. We don't really elect those people around here. But apparently we did this time, because we're in a situation where one of the town leaders, we have a select board. A select board is like a town council to the rest of the world. But here in New England, a select board is made up of people we have selected from the town meeting. The town meeting is a meeting of the town's people, the voters of the town. We act as our own legislative body. This is New England History 101 in 30 seconds. So the town voters meet. We are a legislative body. We select people to represent us during the year. Those people become members of the select board. And they take care of our wishes during the year. There is no mayor. There is no town manager. We don't have an administrator. There's a town clerk that does paperwork and treasury stuff and all that kind of things. But our 3-person select board makes the day-to-day decisions. One of our select board members is also the boss of the 5-person road crew. He also owns property. We all own property, but he owns property downtown near the town yard where the town gravel pit is, or was because we've used it all up. So our town road crew boss, who needs gravel for the town road crew to keep managing the 65 miles of dirt roads, we have it here in our 40 square mile town on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains in southern Vermont. He decided to sell the town a chunk of dirt that he has for $100,000. We need the gravel pit. We need to solve a problem. We really do have 65 miles of dirt roads. We really don't need to drive 60 miles round trip every time we go get gravel in a 14-yard end dump. So, that's a waste of fuel and time and effort. So having another gravel pit here in town would be lovely. We burn through, after a couple hundred years, we burn through our gravel pit after the hurricane of 2011, which is also when we passed our town procurement policy. Hey, anything that's over $3,000 or $10,000, we have to follow federal procurement guidelines. So if we have a need, we write that down. becomes a specification. We take that specification. We notice it in 3 different places around town. We post it. People are then eligible to go bid. They go, not bid. They're eligible to submit bids. Hey, I've got a chunk of dirt. It meets your specifications. It's close enough to the road. It's near the middle of the town. It has gravel of the right type. It's not too steep. It has 4-season access. All of that. Whatever those specifications are, then those bids are opened from a sealed envelope during an open meeting. Wait, I've been through this, haven't I? There's 11 steps. You review them. You notify the bidders. You make sure that they're not crooks by looking at sam.gov, blah, 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 blah. 11 steps. And then you award the contract. And in Vermont, there was a lovely little exception to the open meeting law. When negotiating for a real estate transaction, you may do that negotiation behind a closed door. Sure. Because you may be dealing with social security numbers, private information, banking information, and stuff like that. Perfectly logical. You also get to close the door when dealing with, personnel issues. These are essentially private. But the point of getting to the door where you've decided which piece of property is public. So here we are. We have public monies from the public treasury. We're supposed to be operating in the public good. And yet we just gave the money and made a decision based on some sort of familial or familiar preference. Just like our friends in Boulder, Colorado did. And there is a little dust up here. There's a little protest going on. There's a petition. A little hard to do when people are, social distancing, physical distancing. But at least it's being written about, and people are saying, wait a second, this isn't right. When you have public monies, you need to follow the law. But apparently that's not what we're doing these days. We're saying, it's okay. If you have public money, you can close the door. You can make decisions that benefit you or yours. And regulations are bad, and some laws are good, but somehow we're differentiating regulations and laws. There's no difference. They're the same. But small print is bad. So, I don't know. I'm holding this thing, the Declaration of Independence. It's got the Declaration in it and all sorts of good stuff. These words are beautifully written. And we accept these as the founding laws of this nation. And these are predicated to some degree on other religious texts that say, murder bad, thieving bad. But when it comes to writing, 10-point Times Roman language in dense books, we're allowed to dismiss those laws. No. We really don't. We really don't. We don't get to wake up on a Saturday in May and say, today I'm going to go commit a crime. I'm going to go commit a victimless crime. I'm going to use public monies contrary to the public intent. I'm going to find a way that either I benefit or those around me benefit, those who I'm familiar with benefit. That's my plan. That's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make sure that crime pays.